Shalom, Israel. Shalom. It's Gedalia. That's the house of worship. My brother, Yohanan. That's holding it down for Israel, the Northern Kingdom. You know, followed by the Southern Kingdom brothers. Yup, it's an honor to be on Maccabeestv with the brother Daniela. You know, Bawan Yasab, my gun, all the lines of Israel. Much love, all the brothers at AOC. You know, support the channel, Maccabeestv, subscribe definitely, and definitely check out the AOC channel 300, AOC 300.
And make sure y'all tell them about your channel. What's your channel?
The How Music. How Music. You gotta put the dots in between the HOW, and go check us out. We got a lot of In the Truth music. We're holding it down for our people. Like we said, we're trying to stir it up, wake people up. You know, and our music is our ministry. That's how we look at it. All praise to the Most High, Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shah, Barakatah. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Yeah. It's the Mac. It's the Mac. It's the Mac. It's the Mac. It's the Maccabees. Restoring the kingdom, got the master keys. Fully armored kings on the front line. You know who to call on when it's crunch time. Holla one time. It's the Mac. Maccabees Alliance. It's the Mac. Maccabees Alliance. Maccabees. Restoring the kingdom, got the master keys. Fully armored kings on the front line. You know who to call on when it's crunch time. Holla one time, it's the Mac. Maccabees Alliance. It's the Mac. Maccabees Alliance. It's the Mac. AOC. What? LOI. I'm Israel, no division is the reason why. Apostles of New Jerusalem bringing the fruit. UKOIC, we banging out, bringing the truth. Maccabees Alliance. It's the Mac. Maccabees Alliance. It's the Mac. 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 It's the Mac.
Officials have described it as the end of modern life. Across Puerto Rico, there is almost no power and no cell phone signal. And for a lot of the basic necessities that folks need to survive, things like water, food, and fuel, there are severe shortages. And if you're looking to get any of those, many people are facing lines that stretch for hours.
It's terrible. Everyone is fighting for gasoline. My husband goes out at 4 in the morning every day to get gasoline for the generator and gets back at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon with $10 at the most. And so we are trying to leave. We can survive, but we have a little girl and it's complicated. This is crazy.
And we've heard that same frustration from a lot of people here. With no power, communication, and shortages on food, water, and fuel, hundreds of people are now heading to the airport to try and find some way off the island to get to the States where they can stay with family or friends until Puerto Rico can be able to get back on its feet. I spoke to the governor a little bit ago, though, and he assured me that help is on the way. They are working to set up water stations across the country so that folks can be able to get that water that they need. They're also working on getting fuel distributed and that supply chain back up and running as they clear off roads and slowly get folks back to some semblance of normal life. There are also still some remote parts of the island that they have not been able to establish contact with to see how they're doing, how bad the damage is. And today they are working on arranging flybys of those areas to establish contact and see what kind of help they need. But we were at the airport this morning, Shannon, and I can tell you help is on the way. It is steadily flowing in on airports across the country now. They're slowly opening those up to relief supplies. Planes are coming in with pallets of food food, water, generators, as well as fuel. And communication has been one of the hardest things for folks here. And the governor told me they're working on getting generators to the cell phone towers across the country to get those up and running so that folks can touch base with their family and friends to let them know how they're doing in the days, weeks, and months ahead.
All right, family. Shalom. It's your brother, Priest Daniela, Lions of Israel, Maccabees Alliance Council, with another video for you. So we've all seen what's been happening over the last, let's say, month and a half. We know we had Hurricane Harvey that hit Texas. We know we had Hurricanes Maria and Irma that devastated many, many Caribbean islands and Florida, parts of Florida. Okay. I just showed you the video in Puerto Rico. So bad down there, they said it's the end of modern times in certain parts. That's how bad it is. It's like they're starting from scratch from the beginning. I'm someone that's originally from New York, so I've been through a few hurricanes because New York is on the coast, but none of the hurricanes have ever been devastating. There's been some coastal damage, like out on Coney Island in Brooklyn, certain parts of Long Island, but nothing ever, on the level that we saw in Houston, Texas. Nothing like we saw with Katrina. Nothing like we saw in Florida or Puerto Rico or Antigua or St. Croix or any of that stuff. Nonetheless, I've been through some situations where things got kind of hairy. And so I'm making this video just as a suggestion. This video is not for everyone, but maybe someone can take something away from this video and apply it to yourself. They always say that prevention is better than cure. Okay? And so it's nothing wrong with preparing for what we know, if we believe in the scriptures, is already coming. There's nothing wrong with having certain measures in place. I'll give you a quick story and then we'll get right into it. I think it was around 2001 or 2002, I forget, where they had that major blackout up and down the East Coast, all the way up from Canada, all the way down to certain parts of down south. There was a blackout. And in the neighborhood that I lived in, we didn't have power for 4 days. Okay? Now, ever since I've been reading scripture, I've always known that certain things were going to come, right? And so I always felt like there were certain things and measures that I could put into place to kind of ease myself through certain things that was going to come. And so what I want to do is I want to share with brothers and sisters some of the things that I keep in my house in case of a natural disaster, in case of a hurricane, in case of a blackout, in case of civil unrest, and I may be without certain things for a while, like electricity, power, etc. There are certain things that I keep in my house to prepare myself. And I'm going to tell you something. At the time, I was living in a neighborhood that was predominantly so-called Black and Hispanic. And in my building, you had a lot of women that had children under the age of 10. And you could hear, like in the night, babies crying and children crying because there was no electricity, no power, no nothing. Okay? A lot of hopelessness. And so I had some things in my house that I had prepared. And what I did was I actually was giving them away, what I could spare. I was giving them away to my neighbors that had children because they weren't prepared, because our people don't know what's coming. All right. So here's a list of some of the things that is good for you to have in your house that I have in my house, just in case of an emergency, whether it's for a couple of days, a couple of hours, a couple of months. You can actually utilize these things. And I'm going to say this too, right? We have a lot of our brothers and sisters that send money down to the Caribbean, sending money down to Florida and Houston, and that's helpful to a degree. But right now, there's no post office service in Puerto Rico. There's not really, Western Union is not functioning in Puerto Rico right now. So they're not even really getting the money. And when the systems do come back up, there's a lot of other things they're going to need more. They're not going to have power in certain parts of that country for months, maybe years. Okay. So here's a list of some of the things that I keep in my house. And I think that brothers and sisters should keep in their house in case of emergency. And especially if you have children. This is something you should think about. All right. You should have a compass in your house. Now, a lot of these modern day smartphones come with compasses. But once your phone battery dies, then what? All right. You should actually have a compass in your house. They sell them in Walmart. They sell them in Army and Navy stores. Try to have a compass in your house at all times in case you have to go from point A to point B and you don't know how to get there. That's what a compass is for, all right? That's what people used before they created GPS and maps in modern times, okay? You should have a first aid kit in your house in case of emergency. And they're cheap. You can get these at Walmart. They don't cost much. Nothing I'm going to tell you is something that costs you a lot of money to have, okay? Try to get yourself a battery-powered radio. Very important, so that you can keep track of what's going on. Once you lose electricity, there's no more TV, there's no more news, there's no more internet. How will you get news? You should have a battery-powered radio, some type of radio in your house that does not deal with electricity, but you can still get it to work if you put batteries in there. Something that everybody should have, okay? You should have pots in your house that you can actually cook something over like a fire. So those kettle pots or whatever, those really strong pots, you should have some of those in your house in case you have to, you're someplace like not so urban, and you may have to build a fire in order to get some heat or in order to make some food. You should have pots in your house that can be used if you had to build a fire. Okay? Very important. If you have children, you should have disposable diapers. These are some other things that you should have in your house, especially if you have babies. What are you going to do when you can't go to the store and buy Huggies anymore? What are you going to do? You should have disposable diapers. So this is some of the stuff I was talking to y'all about that I was giving away, right? You see this right here? This goes up on your wall. It has adhesive at the back of it. You can buy this Walmart or in the 99-cent store. I paid $1 for this, right? And I have a lot of them. What you do is you open this up, you open the back up, and as you can see right there, it says it uses AAA batteries. It says it somewhere on the package. I don't remember where. There it is. It uses AAA batteries, right? This is 99 cents. You open it up, you put 3 AAA batteries in there, close the back up and stick it on the wall and turn the switch on, and now you have light. You have about 5 or 6 of these and you put it up on the walls in your house or whatever room you're in. Now you have some light, okay? See this right here? This is something that people use like when they don't have lights inside their closet, they buy these, right? But these are very good to have around your house. You could buy a dozen of these for like $12, $1 a piece, right? And those uses, if I'm not mistaken, this one uses 4 AA batteries. Yeah, there it is, 4 AA batteries, right? So you just, again, take the back off of it, put the batteries in, put the back on. It has adhesive, and you just stick it to your wall and you press the middle piece, press it right in, and it lights up. You press it again, it turns off. I had dozens of these that I just was keeping in my house during that blackout in New York. And when I saw what was going on with some of the families and stuff, I actually was giving some of these things away. I didn't even know that I was going to do that because I had them for myself, you know? But these are things, again, we know what's coming. We know things can always happen, so we're always prepared, all right? Remember, Joseph prepared for that famine that was coming to Egypt. So I keep certain things like this in my house just to keep. Better safe than sorry, all right? These are really easy things that don't cost a lot of money. And no one is saying buy them all at one time, but these are good things to have in your house. Mentioning batteries, you should always make sure that you have AAA batteries in your house. They don't cost much. AA batteries in your house. They don't cost much. D batteries in your house. They don't cost much. And of course, C batteries, which right now I'm out, so I got to go get some. All right. Very important to have these in your house. All right. Now, this is, of course, everybody knows this is a candle. We have an expert candle maker in our camp, Sister Amawana from the house of Captain McGunn. She makes candles, so we have candles in our house. All right. It's always good to have candles, big ones, medium-sized ones, small ones. Doesn't matter. Just have candles in your house in case of anything. All right. It's good to have these things in your house, just laying around and know where it is in case something happens. You know, when a natural disaster is coming, sometimes you have time to prepare for that, obviously. Right. A hurricane is coming or something like that. It's going to be a storm that might cause a flood in your neighborhood or your area, your city. You might have time to prepare for that. But a lot of times when blackouts come, you can't prepare for that. When that blackout happened in the early 2000s, I was actually on a subway underground in New York. Underground on a subway, and electricity went out because the subways run off electricity. So we had to get out and walk on those rat-infested tracks between stops of the subway to get out. All right, that's what happened. So nobody saw that coming, but it happened. All right, so you never know. So it's always good to be prepared, right? Speaking of candles, you should always make sure that you have matches in your house. Again, cheap, $1. Nothing here yet that I've shown brothers and sisters is expensive, right? Another good way to light, and a lot of people only use these for when they're having cookouts or barbecues, but keep a couple of these handy, okay? Very important, okay? Let's come back over here for a second. We taking it back now. Y'all know what that is? That's a kerosene lamp. That's a kerosene lamp. They sell those at Walmart, all right? So you buy the kerosene lamp and you buy oil and you keep it in your house in case of something going down. You have multiple sources of light in your house. You have these lighting fixtures right here. You have candles. You have a kerosene lamp, right? With oil. Make sure you have the oil. Remember the scripture, the New Testament, about the virgins, 5 were wise and 5 were foolish, all right? Make sure that you don't have a kerosene lamp and not have no oil. You got to have some oil there, right? And of course, flashlights. Got to have flashlights. Small flashlights. Industrial strength flashlights. You have to have those, which means you got to keep your battery game up. This is all stuff that should be laying around in every Israelite's house in case of something. And after what we saw on the news, even more so. And these are the things that people in Puerto Rico, St. Croix, Antigua, and other places, this is what you're going to need to send them when the UPS and the post office and these other places open back up. This is what they're going to need. They're going to need money too. They're going to need money too. They're going to need food too. Canned food, of course. They're going to need, medical supplies, of course. But they're going to need stuff like this too. Because once the sun goes down and it gets dark, you're going to need a way to see. You're going to need a way to see. You're going to want to be able to see where you're going and what's going on in your house. So it's good to have these things, family. All right. Something else, of course, you should always have in your house is water. Can never have enough bottles of water in your house. Just have them. All right. And this is something going back old school, right? This is a cutlass, right? This is a cutlass. That they call in Jamaica, they call this a cutlass. All right. You need to have some type of sharp object like this in your house at all time, whether it be a cutlass, whether it be an axe, whether it be a saw, whatever it is, you should have something like this in your house. Because especially if you live in a more rural area, you should have this because you may have to go and cut some trees down, okay? You may have to go cut some trees down and you may have to start a fire to cook some food or to get some warmth if there's no heat, all right? So this is something good to have. I'm saying that even Bruce Lee wouldn't be able to chop a tree down with his hands. So you need to have a saw or axe or a cutlass or something to be able to cut down some shrubbery, some wood, whatever like that, to make sure that you can build a fire if you need to build a fire, family. There's nothing wrong with having these things. They always say, again, I keep saying it, I'm going to keep saying it again and again. Prevention is better than cure, okay? So it's always good to have certain things around your house if you have a family. Like sometimes I feel like as Israelites, we argue so daggone much that we forget the simple things. We forget about the really, really simple things. We forget about the prophecies and the things that's going to happen because we so want to be right in our doctrine. And so we don't have anybody to bring us back to reality and tell us, but what about this? All right. We're arguing over 2,000 and 3,000 and 4,000 year old history when we're talking to these Kemetic brothers. But what about little stuff like this? What is knowing about the origin of the pyramids going to do for the people in Puerto Rico right now? In St. Croix and St. Lucia? What's it going to do for them? Nothing. Not now. And Puerto Rico was bad before the hurricane. Okay, there was no jobs down there. They were getting ready to declare bankruptcy and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Now they're saying it's the end of modern life down there. All right? Don't get caught out there, family. Don't get caught out there. Just a word of advice from your brother. That's all. And there's many, many more things. I know I'm missing some things. These are just the basics. We're going to get into other stuff later. We're going to get into how to build a fire. You're going to see that on Maccabeestv. How to build a goddamn fire. All right, because a lot of us, including myself, was raised in a city. And that skill did not come naturally to me. I had to learn it. All right. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff that's relevant. And we're still going to talk about history, prophecy, and all that. All right. So now I want to show brothers and sisters one last thing online about certain laws that are in place. Okay, I wanted to show brothers and sisters something very important. It's good to know certain laws that are on the books. We all know that at any time, a hurricane can hit where you live. There could be a tornado. There could be a flood. There can be civil unrest and many, many other things which will cause the government, starting with the president, the Congress, the governors, et cetera, to enact laws that are laying dormant on the books, but they are there. And one set of laws that are on the books that are laying dormant for the time being are what they call anti-hoarding laws. Okay? They've been around since the 50s, and they were buffeted and updated during the Obama administration. So as you can see at the tab at the top on the left, right, I'm showing you a website, I'm showing you a search I did about anti-hoarding laws, right? Now you can see in the address bar what website I'm on. The website is called modernsurvivalblog.com. This website was not created for our people. It is created for white militia groups, white nationalists, neo-Nazis, etc., to alert them and their followers about certain things that are going to take place if certain things happen so that they're aware. But our job as the watchmen is to warn our people. Okay? So that's what I'm doing. So when you come to this blog called modernsurvivalblog.com, I'm at one of the paragraphs that's like in the middle of this, right? And there are a lot of links on this website that will take you so that you can actually read those laws for yourself. But that's your homework. All right? Check this out. This is Title 50, War and National Defense, Title 50, Appendix War and National Defense, Defense Production Act of 1950, Section 2072, Hoarding of Designated Scarce Materials, right? In order to prevent hoarding, no person shall accumulate, one, in excess of the reasonable demands of business, personal, or home consumption. So in a case of a natural disaster where commodities are scarce, the government can dictate what they consider to be reasonable and excess. You could have went out to Home Depot, or not Home Depot, you could have went out to Costco's. You could have went out to BJ's or wholesale place and just buy tons and tons and tons of stuff because you know something is getting ready to happen. A hurricane is getting ready to come or something of that nature. The government can decide at any point they were to enact these laws and really enforce them. They could decide that you have too much in your house. Okay, let's read on. 2, for the purpose of resale at prices in excess of prevailing market prices, materials which have been designated by the presidents as scarce material or materials the supply of which would be threatened by such accumulation. The president shall order published in the Federal Register and in such other manners as he may deem appropriate every designation of materials, the accumulation of which is unlawful, and any withdrawal of such designation. So he can dictate that you have too much of said item in your house and make it unlawful. That's on the books. A lot of y'all don't know that. Okay? And Hillary Clinton was a big fan of this law during the Obama administration. That's another topic. All right? Because I know some of y'all love Hillary. In making such designations, the president may prescribe such conditions with respect to the accumulation of materials in excess of the reasonable demands of business, personal, or home consumption as he deems necessary to carry out the objectives of this action. Section 2061, 2170, 2171, and 2172 of this appendix. This section shall not be construed to limit the authority contained in sections 101 and 704 of this act, sections 20071 and 2154 of this appendix. So, of course, the so-called white man in his laws makes it very archaic. You have to really go and sit down and digest this thing and go from one section to the other to really get the understanding of what that is. But you get the general purpose or premise of these laws that's on the books. Okay. Now, we believe in prophecy, as I said before. We all know what the Bible says is about to happen. If you are an Israelite, you believe in the Bible, you know what's coming. Okay. So even though I may say to you, it's okay to get certain things in your house. It's always good to have prevention. As the old saying goes, prevention is better than cure. Okay, that really goes with health, but it's really a general principle in general. You know, it's good to know these laws are in the books because even so, with doing so, at any time, they can just simply say that you can't have that in your house. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you don't go out and prepare. We know that Joseph prepared for the famine that was coming to Egypt. We know that. We know that clearly. Okay? The Most High had him in Egypt for that reason, amongst many others, so that Israel would have a place to come when that famine came and they'd be protected. Okay? But that's another topic. The point is, though, that all these things are on the books. So we're not trying to go overboard. We're not trying to be doomsday preppers and put all types of stuff in our house. We're not trying to do that. We deal with a certain measure of faith as Israelites. But what I'm saying to you is that even though you prepare for certain things, and you should prepare for certain things as leaders of your households, as mothers and fathers and uncles and aunts, and people that people look up to, it's good to prepare for stuff, but just know that certain things are on the books, man. We have to stay alert. There's an old saying in the military: stay alert, stay alive. Stay alert, stay alive. Watch these prophecies and pray. Okay? With that, this is your brother Priest Daniela. I'll be touching more on this topic real soon. Make sure y'all subscribe to our new channels, man. We got Maccabeestv. The water to everybody for subscribing. We got Sisters of the Maccabees, which is up and growing for all the sisters. The water to everybody that subscribes. We now have Maccabeestv News, where I'm going to be touching a lot more topics and current events like this. Make sure y'all subscribe. And finally, we have Maccabeestv Music, where you can get nothing but nonstop Israelite music from sun up to sundown. If you have something that you want me to put up on that channel, hit me up. Shalom.